mandatory teacher evaluation tools and really the role of teacher evaluation tools and the need that we have in every district. This came from my own school experience that, we don't really have a unified approach of teacher evaluation, and that might be from, district to district, state to state. And it can even be within divisions, right? Within a school district, and I think it's just something necessary that we have within our schools. So, really, the current evaluation system, like I just said, they're just kind of falling short. A lot of teachers within the United States are identified as highly effective teachers, but how is this happening when we have an increasing level of low achievement data among our students? That we have all these highly effective teachers, but then our data, student data, is just increasing this low achievement data. And so that shows inconsistency, right, and inefficiency of these evaluation systems. So something should be done. Now, Reed in his study said, sometimes principals really don't know much about the evaluation system and the depth of it. They're not trained in it. They feel that they're subjective and they don't accurately represent the teacher, that there are other things. And so there's not a lot of trust by principals in backing with this. And so he also noted in his studies that they were using the evaluation system improperly. So if we have this low achievement data, that is on one scale of the evaluation system, that we have offsetting this scale with other scores, right? So low student growth data, let's put more subjective data with this teacher to make them highly effective. And so principals became lenient on their evaluations, or continue to be so. And so we really don't have a true measure of teacher effectiveness in most cases, and their minimal positive impact on teacher instruction. Now, if we look at this figure right here, how many states' teacher evaluation system are required measures of student growth? That they require measures of student growth in their evaluation system. Now, this can be effective with this. And so we see, 2009, we've got 15, 2011, as we go forward, 24. Then we peak at 2015 with 49 states. I think this correlates directly with the Race to the Top initiative that was passed in around 2012 when that got momentum going. But then we see it kind of taper off after 2015. And now, in this current state, we have 30 states that the teacher evaluation system have the measures of student growth involved. Now, the evaluation models in the United States, it's just interesting to me. I want to focus on this figure to the right real quick before we go into this, is how many states really require that teachers be evaluated annually. And, it goes from 2011 that we've got 22 states, 2015, 27, and then we go all the way to around where we are now. We've got about 22 states. And to me, that's baffling that, we don't really require these annual evaluations. They're just, kind of optional for these states and districts. So typically when these evaluations happen, it is involving one classroom evaluation that involves a principal evaluating teacher behaviors and classroom conditions. Many states have kind of probationary periods as well, with evaluations that lead to tenure status. So, teachers are, in the hot seat their first couple of years, and they have more evaluations. But then we see teachers that are veteran teachers that are not required to have evaluations. And so that's kind of a loophole in the system that we have. So we don't have the feedback, that constant feedback and professional growth happening in many cases because of this. And so, again, only annual feedback is provided for many administrators, and that's because that's the thing that's required. Now, as I said, Race to the Top, it's had better standards for successful teaching and evaluation systems is what it did. It really helped define those systems and made it more clear for administrators. And so, but there's just still inconsistency in the states. There was at the time of Race to the Top for formal evaluation systems and what's included in an evaluation for a teacher. How can we be less subjective, but really evaluating the whole teacher, right? Instead of just making it about student data. So a lot of time, over time, students have moved, or these states have moved away from the formal evaluation systems. In some cases, they're no longer having these student surveys, student academic growth as an indicator of teacher effectiveness. There's 10 states right now that require the use of adopted evaluation model. 14 states give district the power to decide the adoption of statewide evaluation system, and 27 states say, okay, districts, you can design your own evaluation system, but you have to adhere to your Department of Education state guidelines. And just to show you the state, what role the state plays in the evaluation design. So that light blue is district design their own evaluation system based on the criteria from the state. Mid-range blue is that districts may either use the state's evaluation system or develop their own. And then that darker blue, districts must use the state evaluation system. So they have a uniform evaluation system. But still, again, we do not have a federal national evaluation system. So it is by the states, and they opt into what they have for that. Now, going back to other policies that have been in place, Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015 ended federal government's involvement in the evaluation system that were to be implemented in each state. Now, like I said, states are in charge of doing that. They do have to report, the state has to report to the U.S. Department of Education their own system of teacher evaluation. It can, like I said, it can be uniform, state enforced, or it can be guidelines that the school district may use. That's decided by the state. But interestingly enough, states must have an evaluation system, but that does not mean that they require observations. And so there's no guarantee that students have or teachers have valid and reliable evaluations. So my problem statement is a lack of consistent evaluation measures throughout the United States results in inequitable treatment of teachers in terms of job performance evaluations. So let's solve this. So proposed solutions would be, of course, an evaluation system, but first we need to know standards of good practice for teaching. And so that would have to be defined. Also, it would need to be specific and measurable systems of evaluation. And so training for teachers and administrators is also a key solution for this. If we have an evaluation system in place, we must train teachers and administrators how to effectively use it, know what's coming. And then, of course, timely observations and feedback. We can't just rely, on observations. We must have summative evaluation, but we also need feedback along the way for our teachers so they can grow professionally. So here is a policy proposal. Administrators within the United States must follow the 6 standards of evaluation process created by Holland in 2005. I thought these were great standards, having a differentiated evaluation approach based on the teacher's level of development, a collaborative approach that considers the teacher's instructional goals, progress towards achieving these goals, and implications of that progress, and then multiple observations. One or more administrators would also be key to this. So now you want to see growth, but having multiple perspectives is helpful for teachers to have effective feedback from administrators, but having this happen multiple times throughout the year. And then number 4, formative as well as summative, with greater emphasis on the formative approach. I think that's what hurts a lot of our evaluation system, is that they are summative. Teachers think that it is something that's going to happen at the end of the year. It's costing them their job. But if we can get the mindset change that it is a formative thing just to help teachers, whether they're a great practicing, highly effective teacher or one that is a new or struggling teacher, that it is for growth in every case. And then a focus on school goals as well as individual goals. And then lastly, transparent evaluation policies that are clearly articulated, defined, as well as understood. And so that would, like I said, that training would come in. And so really as well, administrators would use rubrics. Now they would, in this rubrics, they would have the 5 elements of good teaching defined by Phillips et al. With 2014. And so that'd be planning and preparation, classroom environment, instructional delivery, professionalism, and collaboration and partnerships. And then administrators of school districts would incorporate multiple evaluation tools. Now, a Measures of Effective Teaching project says, use videotapes, observations, and other artifacts within that to help teachers grow. Not every, size fits everyone, right? Not the same size fits all. So having different types of measures would help as well. And then administrators observe with written and verbal feedback at least 3 times during the school year. So that would be discussing professional goals, progress towards them, and again, this formative style instead of this summative style. So the cost effective associated with it would be estimated cost would be a task force to successfully outline, launch, implement, and monitor the system's evaluation on the federal scale. And the cost would also include the production of all evaluation information and guidelines, as well as formal training for administrators and teachers within each state. And, in conclusion, having a lack of consistent evaluation measures, teachers aren't on the same playing field, right? And we want to give them equitable treatment and their expectations and the standards that we have. What are national standards for good teaching practice? We need to define those and evaluate accordingly. And we don't have teachers looking at evaluation in with a growth mindset. And I think this can change. But it starts with a unified approach with all states on board. And so, and also teachers have to have periodic feedback throughout the year. It can't just be at the end of the year. Through this, we can have highly effective teachers defined, right? And we can positively influence student achievement data through this. So that is my policy proposal and what I kind of did a deep dive on that is something that's been on my mind. Now, my references are listed here, and thank you guys so much for listening.